Hey Outlaw Nation, it's the Outlaw John Roca with a special video here celebrating the release of this brand new documentary on Amazon Prime about Val Kilmer. It's called Val. It's directed by Leo Scott and Ting Pu, and it stars Val Kilmer, obviously, since it's a documentary about his life, but also his children. Jack Kilmer and Mercedes Kilmer are in this documentary as well. I'm going to present two interviews that I did for on the press day for this documentary first, and then on the tail end of this video, I will have my 5-minute review on it in case you're thinking of watching it this weekend and you've got some questions on whether you should. The first interview I've got lined up are Mercedes and Jack Kilmer. Got a chance to sit down with them for like 5 minutes and talk about their experiences making the documentary, being part of the documentary. Jack Kilmer does the voiceover for Val Kilmer, sounding just like his father, to narrate the documentary, and Mercedes appears in it and has a really sweet number of scenes with Val Kilmer as well. In that, she talks about what her favorite film is, which might surprise you. Her favorite Val Kilmer film might surprise you. Jack Kilmer does as well. And then after that, there's a 5-minute interview with the directors Leo Scott and Ting Pu, talking about their experiences making the film, what it was like being around Val as he was making the film, shooting the footage, and what motivated them to take on this task. This is the first time they've actually directed together, and apparently they worked together quite a lot. So, and I think that comes through in the documentary. But anyway, sit back, relax, enjoy these interviews, and then stay tuned for my review for it right afterwards. Hey everyone, this is John Roca with the Outlaw Nation, and I am so excited to be here with Jack Kilmer and Mercedes Kilmer. They are talking about this new documentary called Val, about their father. Great actor Val Kilmer. I'm a massive fan of him, and I'm excited to talk about it with both of them. Jack, I'm going to start with you. Brother, I've got a strong father, a successful father. I know what it's like to walk in those shoes as a son. What was it like for you to be walking into that voiceover booth and doing the voiceover for your father's words here throughout this documentary? What was that process like for you?
Sure, man. I mean, it was just an awesome experience doing the narration. I just felt such a part of the film, and just I felt so close to my dad, and he is a very good writer. He's a very poetic person, and so just to really sit with those words was just invaluable.
Yeah. Did you find that he was directing you from the booth? Did you have a little bit of did you have that father son kind of thing going like, Dad, this is how I want to do it. I'm an actor, let me do it my way. Or was he a little more like, these are my words, I'm gonna tell you how to say them? What was that like? Any of that?
Well, it's funny you bring that up, because that's why we had, shout out to Leo Scott, the director. We had Leo there because Leo was able to give me input. I don't know what it would have been like if my dad directed this movie, but it would be a completely different film. I'm sure there would have been more of his face in it.
Well, let me switch over to Mercedes. Mercedes, you just recently worked with your father in a film that was released last year. What was this? How important was this documentary for you to have people see who your father is now dealing with, what he's dealing with, and showing that he is capable of doing anything that he did in the past now?
Yeah, I think it has been really moving for me to see people see like the real person that he is. Like seeing it in Cannes was really like profound, having the live audience and to see like the person that I know and love to actually be publicly recognized. And he's had so much public recognition in one sense, but in another sense he's really he's very private, and his real personality doesn't always come across. He's such a serious actor that he comes off as being a very serious person, because he's mostly in a professional capacity very serious. But yeah, so it was really cool for me.
Was there stuff you discovered about your father in this documentary and the footage that was shown that maybe you didn't know? Because we all do that as kids. As we get older, we discover all these things about our father we didn't, or our mother we didn't know about until we hear the stories or we see some of the footage. Is there anything that stood out?
I don't know. Our dad is a very open person, and I don't think I learned any new facts per se, but it was like amazing to see like his audition tapes from when he was younger and the lengths that he would go to. Like we keep saying that like there's one where he's like firing live rounds at the camera. He's doing crazy things like to get to see his dedication and to see knowing him now, to see the person that he was before I was
Yeah.
born on video, it did give me a greater clarity about him, but I wasn't really like surprised because, like I said, he's such an open book.
Right. All right, one last question.
Anyway.
Jack and Mercedes, favorite Val Kilmer film? Can you sell me real quick, Jack?
Lately, I've been going with The Doors. I just think he really
Oh.
became Jim Morrison, and it's just an underrated performance, and the music rocks.
That's a great choice. I got that in 4K. Considering you play Ozzy, he played
Nice.
Jim Morrison. Pretty interesting. Mercedes, do you have a favorite film of his?
Island of Dr. Moreau, I think, is epic. There's some amazing footage behind the scenes of the drama with Frankenheimer. Behind the scenes, that's like such a great story and great movie, crazy movie, and I love Heat as well.
Absolutely. I interviewed Richard Stanley. He gave me some off the record comments about his experiences with Val. So it's great stuff. I
Oh,
love
you
it.
got to email me that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us here in the Outlaw Nation. Much love to Jack Kilmer, Mercedes Kilmer. Much love to Val Kilmer as well. See this documentary, people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, John.
Hey, John.
Hey, how's it going, Leo Scott and Ting Poo? How are you? I'm so excited to talk to you both about this movie. I had such a fun time watching this documentary. I'm a massive Val Kilmer fan, so let's just say this was like crack for me. I want to ask you both, how did you get involved? I know you both work for the cartel, for that cartel company there. How did you guys come about? Did this get presented to you all? Did you two jump at the opportunity? I know you've done work with a Britney Spears documentary years ago and an Alice in Chains one years ago. Did this excite you guys to jump into another, to profiling another artist, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually known Val for 10 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I've known that Val for 10 years, and I helped him actually digitize all this material like 6-7 years ago. So it was actually Ting and I also collaborators, and it was us like a few years ago looking for a nice project, a meaty project. We actually went to Val and presented this idea.
Oh, wow.
Of this first person film. And we showed him a little 3-minute version of what it could be, just to illustrate how it could feel. And he was really on board. And then, we all partnered up on it.
Did Leo have to convince you to do this? Were you a Val Kilmer fan already, or what was your experience with Val Kilmer at that point?
Well, first, other way around, I'd say.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe other way around. Because I remember I'd seen when Leo was ingesting some of this material at his house. And you don't really forget something like that, especially as a documentary filmmaker. And so, it had been a few years since I had seen that footage, and I just said, whatever happened? Or did you guys end up making something out of it? And he said, well, we were doing something centered around Twain and creating the character of Twain and possibly using some of this stuff. But I think there's, now might be a good time to pick back up and maybe tell a bigger story about his whole entire life and career.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I no convincing needed.
Well, this is the first time you two, at least according to IMDb, this is the first time you two have co-directed or directed a film like this. What did you experience in terms of the challenges that really stood out for you versus editing already shot footage? This is stuff that you all were shooting on the fly. We can hear you guys occasionally off camera asking questions. Like, what was this? What was the most challenging, I guess, part of it all?
That's a good. I mean, I think the editing was still the challenging part.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, deciding like what to leave out, because there was just so much amazing material. But in terms of shooting, Leo had been shooting with Val prior around Twain and stuff, and
Right.
and Val was very open to having us record his life, and our crew was super small, sometimes 1 or 2 people. So it was very fluid in terms of the production.
Well, then let me ask Leo, go back to you. Did you have, since you've been friends with Val for so long, did you have some struggles with subjectivity versus objectivity in telling his story? I've seen some of the reviews say, well, we didn't go deep enough into him accepting some of the rumors about him being troublesome on sets. Did you feel like you had to be, you had to kind of let him speak for himself and not necessarily have an opinion or point of view on that?
Well, first thing I'd say is we were very deliberate in wanting to tell a first person story. We wanted it to be true to Val's experience of his own life and piece together from this incredible material, this very subjective film from Val's sort of perspective, which meant going on a journey sort of with him. But I can only speak about my own experiences of working with Val, and he's only ever been sort of very magnetic, incredible subject to film, and he surprises you and incredibly dedicated to the roles he's done. And you know, there were sometimes even in the making of this film where you want him just to say a little soundbite that's going to help connect one scene with another. And if you ask him for that, he's not going to just give you that soundbite just because you asked for it, but he'll give it to you in a different way, maybe the next day or later that day, but in a different way that's much more for him and much more surprising and much more magical. He just said the thing that you want him to say. So he was only ever a joy to work with.
Well, I tell you, as a massive Val Kilmer fan, I hope to one day become friends with both of you so I can have access to the thousands of hours of footage, because I'm sure there's a bunch of stories he told about so many different projects that he worked on, and we only get a taste. And I've seen some people complain, oh, we only get a couple of minutes, but there's so much work, and that's what you want, is that you have an overabundance of material to choose from in creating a documentary. Certainly, I think there's a lot here for people to enjoy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
Take care, guys.
Bye. Thanks.
All right, those are pretty awesome reviews. Loved what all four of them had to say about their process of making Val, working with Val Kilmer, being in the booth with another director besides Val Kilmer there. Jack Kilmer spoke about that. I thought Mercedes had some really sweet things to say about working with her father and how much she wants to promote her father still being able to do what he did in the past with some physical limitations, but that shouldn't stop him from being able to work in doing what he loves, for sure. Also, Leo Scott and Ting Pu gave us some great insights into the process of making the documentary, what motivated them, what they found out about themselves in making this documentary, and a little bit more about Val Kilmer as well. Good to know that there are people who really care about Val Kilmer and wanted that to come through in the documentary, for sure. All right, let's get into my review of Val. I think it's one right off the bat. Let me tell you, I think this is a fantastic documentary. Had a really great time watching this thing. Great to see the behind the scenes home movies that apparently Val Kilmer's been shooting since he was a child, since he was a teenager. Got his hands on one of the first people to get their hands on a video camera to record the things that were going on behind the scenes, things like his playtime with his brothers, and then eventually getting onto the sets and doing the things that he was doing. His time at Juilliard, his time on the set of Top Gun, on Island of Dr. Moreau, on a number of other on The Doors. Seeing some behind the scenes stuff that's going to be in this documentary. For those of you who haven't seen it yet, I can't recommend it enough. There's so much insight into his point of view of how he navigated this really interesting career and all the different movies and the different stages of his career that he's gone through, from like Top Secret all the way up to the end now, where he's working on these smaller, more independent films, and recently did one with his daughter, with Mercedes Kilmer, last year that we spoke about in the interview earlier on this video. But yeah, this one gives you a great peek behind the curtain into what his thoughts were as he was growing as an actor. He addresses some of the complaints about him being difficult to work with. It's his own point of view. Whether you want to take his point of view or not is your decision, obviously, but you get his point of view on all of it, what he wanted to create. Could we have gotten more? Would we have liked to have seen a little bit more of the behind the scenes stuff? Absolutely. I think it's the documentary is, as long as the documentary, I think it's an hour and 50 minutes or an hour and 45 minutes. I wish it had been 3 hours or 4 hours. And like I said in the interview earlier, I wish I could have had like access to all the footage to be able to hear his thoughts on everything that he encountered on all the different sets he's been on. And films like Thunderheart, Heat got a little bit of love, but not that much love. And so I would have liked to have seen seen a little more from some of those movies. But hey, what we got was pretty interesting. There's a sequence there with John Frankenheimer where Val's recording the interaction between him and John Frankenheimer on the set of Island of Dr. Moreau, which is very interesting. And of course, you get some of the stuff with Top Gun that you get the behind the scenes, and you get to hear and it was great seeing the young actors there on Top Gun and all they were going through. I mean, just right on the precipice of when they're about to launch that movie and have that movie become a massive success and a massive hit. Not too much with Tom Cruise. Would have been nice to see some of the stuff with Tom Cruise, maybe even get an interview with Tom Cruise currently about what it's like working with Val Kilmer, what it was like working with Val Kilmer. But Val had very positive things to say about Tom, very sweet things to say about Tom. And you also get the story of how him and Joanne Whalley met, and how his obsession grew from seeing her in a play, and then what it led to years down the road in Willow. And we get a little bit of the conversation about what it was like working on Willow as well, and how they came together as a couple, and then of course had these two wonderful children who I got to interview, and what that experience was like. And he's very honest about his assessment of his marriage and how much he was there and how much he wasn't there, and looking back, having regrets about some of his time in that marriage and what it led to. And then also we get a little bit of a really tough exploration of what he's doing now, of having to go and like essentially parlay his former film roles at festivals and sign posters and do all of this stuff in order to fund his life now, in order to pay for his bills now. And also we get a really good taste of what it's like to be living with the cancer that he's living with. And although I think he's in remission and taken it out, he has to live now with the voice box and what the chemotherapy did to his vocal cords there. So seeing him interact, and after the first few, it's jarring initially, but after the first few minutes, you start to see the personality of Val Kilmer coming through as he's talking, using the voice box, and it's totally fine, and you just get used to it, and it works. Also, there's some fun stuff near the end of Twain. The Twain stuff is really great to watch. I haven't been lucky enough to see him do Mark Twain on stage, but seeing how he went about the process and created what motivated him to do Mark Twain, I thought was stellar, absolutely stellar. And it was great to see his transition or his change into Twain and doing the voice and what he experienced and what he went through and why he wanted to do this. That was a great little part of the documentary as well. And Jack Kilmer, got to give a shout out to Jack Kilmer. He has some really sweet scenes with his dad as well, but him voicing over this documentary was stellar, just absolutely stellar, and really enjoyed the way he was able to pick up the rhythms of his father's speech. So it sounds like it's a young Val Kilmer narrating and navigating us through his life as if he's looking back on his life. And I think Jack did an incredible job pretty much imitating or encapsulating his father's voice and his energy and his point of view and his essence, and I think that deserves a lot of credit as well. So if you've been maybe on the fence about this one, I'd like to push you over the fence into the I'm gonna watch it side of that fence, because this documentary is worth it. And yeah, like I've seen some of the criticism, he doesn't go deep enough, or he kind of explains certain things away, and that's fair, but this is his point of view. It's called Val, so you're getting Val Kilmer's point of view. So for yourself, if you're a fan of Val Kilmer, or if you have a mild interest in Val Kilmer, it's definitely going to pique your interest to go and see his point of view on all this stuff and get his 2 cents on all of this as well, plus mixed in some footage and stuff, and you really get a good taste of what his early life was like, of his relationship with his brothers, of how devastating a certain tragedy early on in his life really affected him for the rest of his life, and how his parents split also affected him for the rest of his life. And we get a lot of that. And Joanne Whalley is in this as well. You get to see her give her points of views or thoughts real quick on certain situations. So great of her to be willing to be part of this documentary. So I can't recommend this thing enough. I give it 4 cowboy hats for sure from The Outlaw here, Val Kilmer documentary. It's on Amazon Prime now. Do yourself a favor, watch it this week and enjoy yourself, and let me know what you thought of the documentary. Let me know what you thought of these interviews down in the comments section below. Remember to hit a like on this video as well, and share it on your social media, and do me a favor here, subscribe to the channel as well. Subscribe, hit that red button down below, and hit that button. The button lets you know when we're dropping new content here on the channel. Also, come and join me on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation on Twitch. I saw Grace Randolph do a watch along of the Suicide Squad last night. I was watching for about 20 minutes, and that gave me ideas of maybe doing some watch alongs with you all on Twitch and in other places as well. So this could be something to open up and explore. And then also on the Patreon, patreon.com/John Rocha, patreon.com/John Rocha. So much going on over there. We're making some changes to allow more interactivity between me and you all. So if you're going to become a patron, now's the time to become a patron. You get the hangouts, you get the shows that are coming, all that stuff. It's a really cool place to be, and a great Discord full of awesome people. All right, that's it for me. Take care of yourselves. Follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram, and make sure you look out for another review or another interview or another trailer reaction or another pre-produced video or another live show here from the Outlaw Nation coming soon. Take care.